Hello, bonjour. Today we'll have a look at the relative pronouns in French, or les pronoms relatifs. The first thing to say about relative pronouns, which in English are which, who, or that, is that relative pronouns in English are sometimes optional, whereas in French you have to use them. For example, in English you could say, the film I saw yesterday was interesting. But in French you can't. In French, the equivalent of that I saw yesterday, the that has to be there. And the first ones we're going to be looking at are qui and que. Both que and qui means who, which, and that. So let's have a look first of all at the relative pronoun qui. And if we look at those sentences, regarde cet homme conduit dangereusement. Now we've got cet homme twice, so we're going to want to replace it and say, look at this man who drives dangerously. So this part there, cet homme, is going to be replaced by the relative pronoun. Now if we look at this, cet homme is the subject of the verb conduire. So when we replace the subject of the verb, we use qui. Regarde cet homme qui conduit dangereusement. So what we say is qui is replaces the subject of this verb. Or in other words, qui comes before another verb. So let's move on now to que. Now, as we already know, que means the same as qui, that is, who, which, or that. Let's look at the sentence here. C'est le livre, j'ai lu le livre. Once again, I've got livre twice, so I'm going to want to replace the second one and say it is the book that I have read. Le livre, when we look at it, le livre is the object of the verb lu. When I want to replace the object of the verb, what I'm going to use is que. C'est le livre que j'ai lu. Again, what we notice is that the que comes this time just before the subject of the next verb. Our third relative pronoun is dont. Now, before we move on to dont, you've got to accept that some verbs are followed by the preposition de. So among those verbs, you will have things like avoir besoin. Let me get a pen. Avoir besoin de. You also have se méfier de. You would also have parler de. Okay, so all those verbs are followed by the preposition de. So again, if we look at this sentence, c'est le livre, j'ai besoin de ce livre. Now we can clearly see we've got a de there, and the de is attached to the phrase, the verb phrase, j'ai besoin de. So if we want to say it's the book I need, we will say c'est le livre dont j'ai besoin. It is really important to understand at this stage that the reason I'm using dont is because of the de, which is here. Okay, and the de is actually attached to the phrase avoir besoin de. Let's have a look at another example. C'est le livre, tu m'as parlé de ce livre. Now, we're using the verb parler and we've got the de there. because parler, to talk about, is parler de, so the de is actually attached to the verb. So think for a little how you would say, it is the book you told me about. It is the book you told me about. C'est le livre dont tu m'as parlé. Once again, if we try to use se méfier de, c'est la personne, je me méfie de cette personne. So again, se méfier is to be wary of, and it is followed by the preposition de. So again, think a little bit. How would you say, it's the person I am wary of? And what you will get is, c'est la personne dont je me méfie. Once again, importantly, we use dont because se méfier, which is a verb, works with the preposition de. The de is attached to the verb se méfier. Now, moving on to the next set of relative pronouns, we have duquel for masculine singular, de laquelle for feminine singular, desquels for plural masculine, and the last one is desquels for feminine plural. Now, if we look at the prepositions here, they've all got de at the end. They all finish in de. Okay, but what is important to realize is that the de this time is not attached to a verb as it was in the first case. It's now attached to another preposition, près de, à côté de, au milieu de, etc. So let's look at these two sentences. C'est la plage. J'ai habité près de la plage pendant 2 ans. And we've got our prepositional phrase there, près and de. And the de is not attached to any verb, it's attached to this preposition there. So if I wanted to say, it is the beach I have lived next to for 2 years, and you can already think about this one, what do you think it's going to be? It is the beach I have lived next to for 2 years. What I want to replace is la plage, so what I'm going to say is c'est la plage près, l'équipe de près, de laquelle j'ai habité pendant 2 ans. Auquel for masculine singular, à laquelle for feminine singular, auquel for masculine plural, and auquel for feminine plural, work pretty much the same way as the one we have just seen, the duquel and etc. But they work with words like grâce à, face à, etc. So again, what is important to notice here is that instead of the de, we've got an à this time. Okay, so grâce à, face à. So if we had this sentence, it is the book thanks to which I passed my exam. Thanks to is going to be grâce à. So think for a couple of seconds. How would you translate this sentence into French? It is the book thanks to which I passed my exam. So we'll start with c'est le livre. Thanks to is grâce. And then my a is going to be replaced by the relative pronoun grâce, auquel j'ai réussi mon examen. Okay, our next example is, these are the difficulties I've had to face. So for to face, we'll be using faire, face, à. So I'll let you think for a few seconds. These are the difficulties I've had to face. These are the difficulties I've had to face. So we'll start by saying, ce sont, because it's plural, les difficultés auxquelles j'ai dû faire face. And I'm using auquel because the phrase is faire face à. So, with the two previous groups, we had a preposition. The preposition was de, so we use duquel and so on, or à, and we used auquel ou à laquelle, etc. But there are more prepositions, which can be, I've listed some here, avec, dans, sur, pour, or sans. Sans means without. Now, with those prepositions, we're going to leave them as they are, but we're going to use lequel, laquelle, lesquels, or lesquelles. So again, you've got masculine, feminine, lesquels is masculine plural, and lesquelles is feminine plural. And we use these with any other prepositions apart from à and de. So here we've got this sentence, it is the car he won the race with. So first thing, you're never ever going to have a preposition at the end of a phrase in French. Never. That's never going to happen. So again, think for a few seconds. It is the car he won the race with. Now our preposition this time is with, avec. And car is feminine singular. So we'll say, c'est la voiture with which, avec, laquelle il a gagné. This next example is, there are foods we couldn't live without. So for food, we're going to be using aliment. And we couldn't live without is sans. So again, think a little bit about this sentence. How would you say it in French? So we're using sans, and we're going to be using the relative pronoun that we need. So we'll say, il y a des aliments sans lesquels, because aliment is singular and plural, on ne pourrait pas vivre. Il y a des aliments sans lesquels on ne pourrait pas vivre. So, qui is the equivalent of which, who, or that. It is a subject, and as a result, it often comes before a verb. Que, again, means exactly the same thing, which, who, and that, but this time it is an object, okay, and it often comes before a subject. Dont is when the verb uses a preposition de. So we've seen a couple parler de, se méfier de, avoir besoin de. And it also translates whose. Duquel, de laquelle, desquels, and desquelles. It's when you're talking about a thing and you're using a group of prepositions or a prepositional phrase which ends in de. Auquel is exactly the same as before, but this time instead of using the preposition de, we're using the preposition à. And finally, lequel, laquelle, and so on is when you talk about a thing, but this time you're using any preposition other than à or de. There we are. This is the end of the relative pronouns. I hope I've made them a little bit clearer. If you're still confused, please get in touch.